Today on Philadelphia Eagles Now, I'm going to explain why the Birds got some great news from the National Football League going into this offseason as Super Bowl champions. This is Eagles Now by Chat Sports. My name is Jay Sr., and no matter where you are or how you're tuned in, I appreciate you for making today's show a part of your day. And first things first, we are almost to 112,000 subscribers. If you want Eagles shows every single day year-round that are insightful, informative, entertaining, thought-provoking, where you have a voice, lock us in, hit that sub button. There are a lot of channels across the Chat Sports umbrella and family that have been able to pick up monster sub numbers just on single shows like this one. Can we get to 112,000 subscribers with this video? We're 648 people away. Hit that sub button right now. As we know, Birds dump trucked the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl 59, 40-22. It wasn't even that close because the Eagles went up 34-0 in that game before Kansas City scored some garbage time points. And now, as we look ahead to 2025, Eagles are going to look to run it back and become repeat Super Bowl champions. And a big offseason awaits for Philadelphia and this ball club. And after winning the Super Bowl, marquee free agents are going to get paid. And Kellen Moore, former Eagles offensive coordinator, who's now the head coach for the New Orleans Saints, is already and might continue to poach this Eagles coaching staff. First, on the free agency front, given how Josh Sweat played all year in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl, same can be said for Milton Williams and Zack Baun and Mekhi Becton. I expect these players here to my right to cash in an NFL free agency, which begins less than a month from now with the NFL Combine beginning in Indianapolis next week. And so with Josh Sweat having 2.5 sacks against Kansas City and having a good year, with him playing a very important position, pass rusher at defensive end, I think he's going to make $18 to $22 million per year on his next contract. Milton Williams just got out of that rookie deal, was dominant against Kansas City. Number 2 defensive tackle in pass rush rate, according to Pro Football Focus. I think he's going to make $18 to $20 million per season. Zack Baun, finalist for Defensive Player of the Year, first-team All-Pro in his first year playing off-ball linebacker. I think he lands a deal that pays him average annual value $12 to $15 million per season. And Mekhi Becton made that switch from offensive tackle to right guard, one of the top players at that position in the game, especially as a road grader in the run game. I think that he gets a bag between $10 to $14 million per season. Back to the coaching staff. Kellen Moore is making moves. He hired Eagles run game specialist and assistant offensive line coach TJ Paganetti to his coaching staff. Not sure what his exact role will be with New Orleans, but he's going to the Big Easy. And then according to reports, Kellen Moore and the Saints are closing in on hiring Eagles quarterbacks coach Doug Nussmeier to be the Saints' next offensive coordinator, while Kellen Moore will still call plays for New Orleans. Kellen Moore is also showing interest and has shown interest in running backs coach Jamal Singleton, who is also the associate head coach for Philadelphia and is looked at as a rising star on that coaching staff, and defensive backs coach Christian Parker, also a rising star in the coaching industry. Moore was going to interview Singleton for the OC job and Christian Parker for the DC job. Looks as though Nussmeier is going to be the OC. And then there's a lot of traction behind Brandon Staley landing that defensive coordinator job. But when you win a Super Bowl, this is what happens when you win a ring. Other teams will try to take your players. Other teams will pay your players top dollar, and then other organizations will poach your coaching staff. And remember, you can't knock Kellen Moore or any of these other coaches or any of these other players for going elsewhere and having the opportunity of a lifetime, because life is about upward mobility. In broadcasting for myself, in whatever industry you work in, if you have an opportunity to get paid and compensated and continue to rise the ranks, oftentimes you're going to take that opportunity. Now let's go full circle here and let's take a look at this from the bird's eye view macro perspective. the Eagles' cap situation. They currently only have $18 million in cap space. It's 20th among 32 teams in the NFL. Can Howie Roseman find a way to get out of the James Bradberry contract? Can he trade away a Bryce Huff? Can he restructure some contracts? Can he sign players to contract extensions, cuts, trades? All of that can open up more cap space for Philadelphia. The 2025 cap is expected to blossom to potentially $275 million, maybe more. And the salary cap space in the NFL and that number is going to be on the uptick. It's going to increase, and create even more cap space for the years to come, because NFL football is a booming business in America and worldwide. And there is a looming television deal that is going to be bonkers. Shoot, this Eagles-Chiefs Super Bowl, which was a blowout in favor of Philadelphia, was just the most watched Super Bowl in the history of the National Football League. And look at how much the NFL salary cap has increased year by year going back to 2011, when it was $120+ million. Every single year, pretty much, it has gone up sizably. And then it did go down after the 2020 season because no fans attended games, and that was the COVID year when it went down from 198 to 182, as you can see here to my right. But after that COVID year, up to 208, then 224.8 to 255.4. And from 2024 to 2025, it could go from 255 to 275. And that 275 number, it could be even higher than that. So I started off the show by saying, Eagles got good news from the NFL. What does this mean for Philadelphia? More cap space for the Eagles now, more cap space for the Eagles in the future to continue to build their football team, be aggressive with their team building strategy, be aggressive with their spending, and continue to be a sustainable winner, which Philadelphia has been since the turn of the century. Since 2001, they have now made it to 8 NFC Championship games. They have also made it to Super Bowls in 2004. 2017, 2022, and 2024. So coming up next, some more information you need to hear on the salary cap. We're going to dive into that just around the corner, but first, myself and Chip, you saw it from our coverage over the weekend. We were just in Philadelphia for the Eagles Super Bowl parade on Friday. Literally one of the best days of my life. I've never experienced a high where I've been in such a great mood, where I've been elated, joined by 1.5 million people who also felt that same way and did not have a bad second in my day from when I woke up to when I went to bed. I mean, that high was like a magical drug that I need to experience once again. The sights, the sounds, the feeling, the atmosphere, the celebration, it was great. And if you want to continue to celebrate this Eagles triumphant and dominant Super Bowl win over the Kansas City Chiefs, plenty of gear available thanks to our friends at Fanatics. Shirts, hats, hoodies, jerseys. All you have to do, use that link down below, chatsports.com/EaglesSB. We're going to put it down, that link, in the show notes and attached to the pinned comment. Use that link. Therefore, Fanatics knows that Chatsports sent you. So to the back half of the show here, you might be familiar with this man here to my right. That is Brett Coleman, one of the best NFL content creators on YouTube and in this space. What he does is really incredible with his film breakdowns, analytics, trends, and then some of the footage that he's able to get, because he has a creative eye and a creative brain when it comes to talking about football. And he put out this tweet today that we made into a quote graphic, and he talked about the exploding salary cap in the National Football League. And he said this: the salary cap is going to explode again. And it's all because of this change in how Nielsen measures television ratings. Starting this year, they are leaning into using data directly from smart TV manufacturers to measure viewing habits in addition to the traditional at-home panel method. This means NFL ratings in particular from Sunday Ticket on YouTube are going to be more accurately measured. And that number is going to be way bigger than you think because of just how many Gen Z and millennials consume football on streaming services. More accurate ratings mean the league's next broadcast rights negotiation in 2028-2029 is going to be way more expensive, which ultimately means massive jumps in the salary cap. If I'm a GM, that means next year or maybe even this year and this offseason, I can sign some truly outrageously backloaded deals with a ton of funny money that all slams home in 2030 and not even care about the math. Chase, what about in 2030 when that money hits? Well, when that money hits on some of those backloaded deals, that's going to be when the NFL salary cap is astronomically higher than what it is right now. And from that point, the game of football in the NFL isn't going anywhere. I mean, college football is booming. NFL business is booming, in the words of the great Antonio Brown. And it's only going to continue to gain popularity, thus meaning that the salary cap will continue to increase. So, for instance, some of the contracts that Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie have signed off on, signing these players to, have ended up being bargains for Philadelphia. And they'll continue to be bargains for the Eagles. And Howie Roseman has constructed a lot of deals like this. For instance, keep in mind, from Coleman, the NFL agreed to this media rights deal back in 2021. And then Jeffrey Lurie, who has a background in film and TV production and knows that the league will be going back to the table in 2029, signed Jalen Hurts to an extension 2 years later that looks like this. Chess, not checkers. And you'll take a look at some of the fine print details of this Jalen Hurts contract. For instance, base salary in 2023 of a little north of $1 million. 2024, 1.1. 2025, 1.1. 2026, 1.2. 2027, 1.3. 2028, 1.4. That's the base salary. You look at the cap numbers, and yeah, they start to go up a little bit. 2025, $21 million. Well, you just won a Super Bowl in 2024. Seems worth it. 2026, $31.9. 2027, $42.1. 2026, $47.5. Or no, 2026 is 31.9. 2027, $42.1. 2028, 47.5. 2029, it's up to 97.5. But at that point, Jalen Hurts might be signed to a contract extension. Then you can backload that deal again. You can kind of massage those cap numbers, and that's the chess, not checkers element that Brett Coleman is talking about. I know, yeah, Jalen Hurts is only 26 years old. He's already won a Super Bowl MVP. He's outplayed Patrick Mahomes in both of those Super Bowl matchups, and he's played his best football in the biggest of games. And so those are the salary cap gymnastics and financial gymnastics that Howie Roseman has mastered, and then him and Jeffrey Lurie have kind of found a way to beat the system in a way, and they can continue to put together these contracts that are very financially creative. And so this is all great news for how Philadelphia in particular runs their salary cap and how they run their football organization. And so I leave you with this. This is a complete list of the Eagles' 2025 free agents. And Howie might dole out some dollars this offseason, if not next offseason, but they can continue to have flexibility on the cap in the years to come. And if free agents do leave, what are the Eagles going to get back? Compensatory picks. So Mekhi Becton, Fred Johnson, Kenny Gainwell, Ben VanSumeren, Britton Covey, Ian Book on the first page of the free agents list. And then we flip to the next page, Parris Campbell, CJ Uzomah, LaRaven Clark, Jack Driscoll, Nick Gates. To the third page, Zack Baun, Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, Oren Burks, Isaiah Rodgers, Brandon Graham, Avonte Maddox, Rick Lovato. Some heavy hitters, obviously, on that list, and some players who you'd love to see return to the city of Philadelphia. But the fact that the salary cap is going up, with how Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie are magicians, with how they structure these contracts, how they massage the cap, how they pull off these financial gymnastics, this team is going to continue to be in a very, very good spot for this foreseeable future. and the future is bright, as Patrick Bet-David says. Give me a follow on X and Instagram at Chase_Senior. In addition to all of the long-form content I put out on YouTube here talking about the Eagles, I do the same on my social media pages.